Today is a very exciting day because it is a day when we are going to be starting a new Siman together in Hilchos Shabbos. We successfully completed Siman Reish Mem Beis, Reish Samach, Siman Reish Samach Beis, and Siman Reish Nun. We went a little out of order, but we did those four Simanim, which really connected very nicely together. We learned in depth about all the preparations over there regarding Erev Shabbos, what to do, buying food. We discussed about laundry, Erev Shabbos, making challah, kavod and oneg Shabbos, how to honor Shabbos properly, showering, bathings, haircuts, cutting nails, setting the tables, making the beds, setting the house, getting the house ready for Shabbos. We discussed a tremendous amount of halachas, learning Erev Shabbos, all of these very, very practical ways of learning halacha. Practical, you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Okay. So take it from Reb Shmuel, who was here the whole time, never missed. Also, David, you agree?
Yes, I agree.
Okay, so there it is. You got my haskama. So that's what we did. Now, if you open up a Mishnah Berurah, a Torah, Shulchan Aruch, and you go through the rest of Hilchos Shabbos, you'll see from Siman Reish Mem Gimel to Reish Mem Zayin, they're very unique. It's not really Hilchos Shabbos, so to say. It's in there, and we are definitely not going to be focusing on those simanim, and that's why we're going to go to Siman Reish Mem Ches. Okay. Reish Mem Ches is primarily going to be dealing with the halachas of are you allowed to go on a ship on Shabbos, a cruise, a boat, why or why not? From within this siman, we are going to be tangenting, and I say we because the rabbis svarim on this siman tangent, the incredibly relevant halachas regarding going on a bike on Shabbos, going on a scooter on Shabbos, traveling on Shabbos in general. If a person we're going to learn about, has a surgery, maybe a optional surgery that they could time, doing it in a way that maybe it's not going to be done during Shabbos. All of these types of halachas, very, very relevant ideas are going to come from the siman. The siman that we're learning is not learned so much, but I do think that it is actually very, very relevant and insightful. Going on a plane on Shabbos, helicopter. Let's say you go on a plane, you're on it before Shabbos, and the plane will then land after Shabbos ends. Yeah, Australia, one of my chavrusas, the plane is 25-hour flight now. You could get direct from New York to, I think, Sydney, Australia. So are you allowed to do that? Why or why not? So all of these halachas we are going to be going through. So one other point is, we do spend a lot of time learning these simanim properly. There are very few people in the world who really do it like this. And that's because we go from all the way to the bottom, all the way to the top. AKA, we do the Gemara, but not just the Gemara, the Torah, the Shulchan Aruch with the Notes of Kalim, but we don't stop there. Most places, even that are learning halacha in depth, they're really stopping there. Most kollels, they're learning the sugyas in the Gemara, they're learning the Torah and the Shulchan Aruch with all the commentaries, and then maybe they'll look at the Mishnah Berurah a little. But the way that we go is we take all of the achronim, we go all the way down to all the rabbis till nowadays, and we learn it all of the way. So it's very unique what we're doing. To my knowledge, there's no one else that does this. And even people who do learn this way, there's no such videos, and that's why I said we have to start doing this, which anyone who watches, it's worth it. Additionally, we do learn and spend time on the Shilas and Shuvas Nishma Shabbos, which is Rabbi Yisrael Harfinis's Sefer Svarim. It's now 8-9 volumes. He's adding a little bit more on Hilchos Shabbos, and the reason why we spend time learning it is because we learn a tremendous amount of insight, and sometimes he makes points and says halachas that we don't find anywhere else from what we learned, and it's a very insightful sefer to learn at the end. That being said, I already did look ahead because I made all of the PDF files already for this siman pretty much, and that is, he does not have any commentary on this siman. I just wanted to point that out. Additionally, he has no commentary on Siman Reish Mem Gimel to Reish Mem Zayin, which we are going to be skipping also. And he actually writes about this a little, if I'm not mistaken. I read in his introduction a while ago, and he said that this is a little bit different. It's not really the Hilchos Shabbos, so that was something introduction to speak out. Additionally, the order of the simanim in general, usually the Torah and Shulchan Aruch is all chronological order. The order of Hilchos Shabbos, I find, is slightly perplexing because I think Reish Nun, Reish Samach Beis, Reish Mem Beis, they should all be grouped together, and then you have the Reish Mem Gimel to Reish Mem Zayin. It's kind of just there. Anyways, the point is trying to give a little rant and an introduction over here at the same time, but the idea is that Reish Mem Ches is certainly a siman, not to skip, and then after the siman, the plan is to basically go in order. We're going to do Reish Mem Tes. Reish Nun, obviously, we already did, and then we're gonna have to see after. I mean, we already did Kiddush, we already did Shalosh Kiddush was in there, the Reish Samach Test, the Reish Ayin Dalet area. So we're gonna have to see exactly if we're gonna. I don't know if we're gonna redo that or not. We'll see. We did Shalosh, whatever. Yeah, Chazar is good always. So we'll see. Okay, so that being the fans, yeah, the halacha is one of the least important. I think the only thing that's less popular is the Pirkei Avos. That's it. I don't know why no one likes Pirkei Avos, so I find it fascinating. It's when I write a sefer on it. I mean, the 40 pages in the first 6 Mishnayos. Anyways, so okay, so let's start it up, and that's what it is. Yeah, in the end, it's for our personal steiging and growth, and anyone else who wants to benefit, they could come along, whether they like it or not. This is, we discussed already on the introductory recording to Hilchos Shabbos how important it is to learn halacha. We didn't put one out. I mean, it's on Rabban.com, the introduction to the Mishnah Berurah on Chelik Aleph of Mishnah Berurah, why it's so important to learn halacha. I mean, it goes without saying you got to know halacha, right? So, gotta be koveitim on halacha. So, the title of the siman is Din Hamaflik B'Sfina V'Ahoylech B'Shar B'Shabbos. This is the halachas of someone who's being maflig. It's an interesting terminology. Rashi already picks up on it in the Gemara, which we'll see. Someone who's going on a ship or a boat, right? So, are you allowed to travel on your yacht on Shabbos? Let's say, for example, you take sail on your voyage before Shabbos starts. Are you allowed to now remain on your yacht and travel on your yacht on Shabbos? It's obviously a shiloh that's very applicable for all of us. Everyone sitting here, we all have.
Whether it's rove, Jews, rove.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see if there's any differences. It's very no-go for us. We all have, a $1 billion yacht sitting in our backyard. That's on, on our 100-acre property. So yeah, exactly. So Kobe, I don't even think he owns a yacht. He doesn't really own houses. Yeah, Bezos has one. But anyways, so. Look, but this is no gaya to, any boat, any ship, whatever it is. So this is what it is. And we're going to see a lot of relevant halachas. If you're going on a caravan on Shabbos. Caravan is, before Biden, when he was in office, so there were caravans, thousands and thousands of people coming from the southern border traveling together to go into the country, and they just walk right in. So they travel in groups, Rovam Hadras Melech. So that's the caravan over there. So what? Yeah. So yeah. Okay. So are you allowed to do this on Shabbos? So usually we never start from the Mishnah Berurah because it goes back earlier. But over here we're just gonna touch upon the Mishnah Berurah and start with this. And he says like this: before we will just zoom this thing. How do you get this thing down? This thing's always bothering me. How do you get that thing down? Okay. Before we enter to explain the words of the Shulchan Aruch, says the Mishnah Berurah over here, Natik Lashon Habraisa Hanemar B'Gemara Bazer B'Gemara Daf Yates. We are going to copy and relate what it says in the Braisa in the Gemara and Masechah Shabbos and Daf Yates. So the Mishnah Berurah over here is going to explain. Going to really quote the Gemara. So instead of just seeing it in the Mishnah Berurah, I figured might as well make a PDF file. We'll see it in the Gemara itself. This is essentially the source for going on boats and the like on Shabbos. This is the Gemara on Yud Tes Amud Aleph in Masechah Shabbos. Tana Rabbanan. The rabbis teach us Ein mafligin b'safina pachos migimel yomim koidim l'Shabbos. You're not allowed to depart on a ship within 3 days before Shabbos, within 3 days of Shabbos. This implies that if it's Tuesday, then you are allowed to. So the obvious question that we need to ask is, why is it?
How far are you going?
What?
How far are you going? Where are you going?
Oh yeah, how far? We got to discuss that. Where are you going? I don't know. If I would go on a ship, I'd probably go to Eretz Yisrael.
So that I'm saying, if your trips, if the
There are these boats that go for 10, 15 minutes.
On Shabbos?
Same with 3 days or whatever it is.
yes,
Let's say you're going a very quick boat.
On Shabbos? It's also
no, Arab Shabbos.
before
Yeah,
Shabbos.
3 days
Before Shabbos is mutter.
I know, but it's just 3 days.
Nah, this talking about if you're gonna stay on the ship on Shabbos.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. To go on a ship, you want to go on your yacht on a Thursday nice afternoon, you could go on your yacht.
Friday afternoon.
Yeah, no one's stopping you. A guy down our block owns a boat. Say it's probably a 50-footer. The guy lives in a house. It's not even a big house. But he goes on a boat. He pulls it with his tow hitch on his truck. He's
You know, you can't pull a 50-foot boat on them.
The upkeep's expensive, but and now I'm gonna promote the electric boats. Oh, less upkeep, less maintenance. Shalom Aleichem. Yeah. Look, maybe one day, I looked at a thing that had these 4-seater, the manual push things without gas, less than $1,000. A canoe, you get a canoe, $400.
Electric canoe.
No, a manual. You got to use the thing. You got to use the paddles. Yeah, that's how you get the, you get all buff. So, it depends what you're getting, but, so the obvious question is, why are you not allowed to go on a ship? So the answers to this should be, there should be numerous answers to this. But the question is, so then why are you allowed to go on a ship if you were on it already for 3 days? Now, when you go on a cruise, most cruises, by the way, have problems because a lot of people that are immodestly dressed. But let's say you go on a kosher cruise. So the 5 days or so.
Same thing.
You don't have to get off the ship. Even when they dock at a place, you don't want to get off of Puerto Rico, you don't have to get off. By the way, the most expensive cruises are the ones that go to Antarctica. Surprise, surprise. Who would want to go there? It's nice. It's different. It's because the ice, Titanic. It's difficult with ice. You got to be careful. Yeah, no joke.
Yeah, I'm joking.
Yeah.
I don't know what,
Who wants to go there? It's very, very pretty. Ma'arabu Masach Hashem. If I would travel anywhere after Israel, probably Antarctica I'd be into.
Okay.
Yeah.
Antarctica, yeah. I was thinking of Alaska.
Very nice, just open. Yeah. Alaska also, yeah, they do cruises there. I don't know if there's cruises that go to Antarctica. I don't know. I would go.
No, Antarctica, they have cruises, yeah.
Gotta see a little bit of every continent. All right, anyways. So what does this word mafligen mean? Ein mafligen b'safina pachos migimel yamim. So Rashi over here points out mafrishin mina yabash yam. This is talking about people who embark. They depart from the dry land to the sea. It's like you are leaving from the settled from the land over there. It's interesting to point out. My father, Shalom, he was very into fish. A lot of fish, having them as pets, very into it. And maybe I always tell my wife, I say at a time when we have more room and whatever, and maybe one day I like a fish tank. Probably when I'm 60, 65. Kids are old. Get a very nice fish tank. I have a fish tank. Fish tank. There's a very nice.
A fish tank doesn't take up room.
Yeah. First of all, it depends the size. It's a very nice tank that's 100 gallons, special custom-made shape in my mother's garage.
Yeah.
And whatever. See if the tank lasts. But it's if you make a cheshbon of the world, so I think they say 2/3 of the world is all water. Of the 2/3 in the world, I think 98% is salt water, 97%. You could look it up to fact check what I'm saying, obviously on Google or whatever you want. But if you just think about that for a moment, we spend the overwhelming majority of our life on dry land, but the water is there's a lot going on, and you see that even nowadays with all of the technical advancements in terms of from a technology perspective, they still can't get to the depths of the sea because of the pressure and other reasons. And even if they send machines down there, they can't handle it. And they don't even know what's going on all the way down there, which is amazing. You have people trying to get to Mars, which is how far away? I mean, it's incredible. And meanwhile, they can't even get to the bottom of the sea. And you see that the water also, the Torah is compared to water. It's a Gemara in Tainus on Daf Zayin, other places. And you see that the Torah is obviously endless, and the water is hard to get to the depths of it. It's a similar type of idea. And this is something interesting. And the Gemara in Kedushin, the Mishnah rather, on Chav Tes, according to a Yesh Omrim, there are those who say that you need to teach your children how to swim.
Yeah.
It's important, and we've seen over the last 10 years already that there was just a drowning incident in Israel just a month ago. I mean, that was not drowning, that was from a shark. That's something else. But water is it's a big thing. Okay, so we still haven't figured out exactly, unless anyone has an answer, why you are allowed to go on a ship if the ship took sail not within 3 days of Shabbos. We still have not answered that question. Tosfos over here says,
Wait, so what's the scenario?
you're going on a ship and you're staying on the ship. Are you allowed to stay on the ship on Shabbos or not? So the Gemara over here is saying,
Wait, so
if you go on the ship,
doesn't it all depend on when you're supposed to arrive?
no, because you just don't get off. The
Like-
Gemara over here is saying, if you go on the ship and if it takes sail within 3 days of Shabbos, that is prohibited. If it's further than 3 days within Shabbos, aka it's before 3 days within Shabbos, so then it's permissible. That's what the Gemara says. That's the halacha. That's going to make its way into
It has
Shulchan.
nothing. It has nothing to do with traveling on Shabbos. It's to do with when it leaves before Shabbos.
Yeah, but you're traveling on the Shabbos in both cases. If it's within 3 days of Shabbos, usher, you're not allowed. If it's before that time, you're allowed. Why? What's that?
Okay.
What'd you say? Sure. Right. So Tosfos over here says, Afilu toicha tchum aser mishum shat. Even if the ship was traveling within the tchum, it was within the eriv of Shabbos, within the borders, the boundaries, it's still prohibited to go on this ship on Shabbos. Still prohibited. That's what Tosfos says. Why? Shat. Shat means swimming. You're not allowed to swim on Shabbos. Why not? Right? My sister, she lives in Florida, and like many people in Florida, she has a pool. So it's a nice pool because it's attached to the house and it's covered with screen. So would you even want a roof on a pool? I don't know. Maybe you want the sun.
In Florida.
Anyways, in Florida, yeah.
In the summer.
So anyways, do they cool pools? Yeah, they could heat pools. They could cool them probably also.
Yes.
I don't know, maybe. You get whatever you want. You just got to pay for it. Anyways, could she go in the pool on Shabbos? No. It's in the Tchum, but you're not allowed to. Mishum shat. It's prohibited to swim on Shabbos for numerous reasons. The main reason, and this is really a shir in and of itself, the main reason is, it's a Gemara in Beitza on Daf Lamed Vav, right? Well-known reason, you might come to build a raft. Look, with the whole raft thing, you have other numerous prohibitions. Number one, with the drying, right? You have potential eriv shaylas also. You have its uvden lechol. It's a week-like activity. It's a zilzal to cover Shabbos. It's belittling Shabbos. I mean, you have a lot of reasons. The shot, you might come to build a raft reason. That's what the Gemara says. But you do have the additional reasons as well. Some of those other reasons. All right. So that's why, even if it's in the tchum, it's a problem. So we still have absolutely no idea why this is the halach. No idea why there's a difference of 3 days or not. Continue the Gemara. B'mei devar mamurim. What are we talking about? L'davar rishos. This is talking about if you are going on an optional trip. We'll have to see exactly what does optional mean. Does that mean that it's a nice Thursday afternoon, so I want to go on my boat and I want to just take a ride, get some fresh air, get in a little ocean breeze, fishing breeze, river breeze, whatever. That's why, by the way, these electric cars that have the front trunk, they're great because after you fish, you put the fish right in, it doesn't stink up the whole car. Good chap, right? Some of them they even make a thing that you could drain the whole thing. All right.
What?
I fished 3 times in my life. I didn't eat the fish after, but I've done 3 times. It's fun when you actually catch them. When you're just sitting there for 3 hours, it's boring. Yeah, some people are into it. All right. Medivar mamurim ladavar rashos is talking about if it's optional. Aval ladavar mitzvah shapir dami. If it's for a mitzvah, then you're allowed to do it. You're allowed to go on a ship, even if you leave Friday. You're allowed to go if you're going for a mitzvah. Why? Upoisik imo. What does that mean? It means you stipulate the money, the monetary compensation with the captain, who we're assuming isn't Jewish. Almanas lishbos. You tell him you gotta stop on Shabbos. Ve'ina shoyvis divrei Rebbi. But he doesn't actually need to stop. You just gotta tell him to stop. If he doesn't, you can keep going on the ship. According to Rashbag, you don't even need to stipulate with the captain that he needs to stop. You have to see who we hold like over here and why. You don't even need to tell him to stop. Rashi says, "Upoisik im nachri amanas lishbos vein sarich lishbos." You tell the captain who isn't Jewish, you got to stop, but he doesn't need to stop. He doesn't need to stop with the ship. I don't know what the terminology is. Stop driving the ship. Stop steering the ship. Guess you'd say driving. All right, manning the ship. Umitzur l'tzidon afilu b'erev Shabbos mutter. From Sur to Sidon, even if you're going to go on erev Shabbos, that's permissible. Rashi over here says, which is a short distance from Sur to Sidon. So it's a short distance. That's fine over there.
So Posek Imo is going again on
Yeah.
the whole thing, not just on the Devar Mitzvah. It's going on,
Yeah,
going back to the three. I mean, for both cases.
it seems like we'll have to look into that. Now, if I'm not mistaken, from what I remember learning this years ago, there's a fundamental Rabbeinu Hananel. You see over here, this is the Rabbeinu Hananel on the side. And he's going to perhaps attempt to provide a reason as to why it is prohibited to go on a ship over here. Yesh mi shoimim bizman shegoysheshes ve'im b'mayim yud tfachim u'mishum gezeiros tchumim nagu ba. Aval lamala miyud tfachim loy gozru mishum hachino lahaflim yamagadol. Some say this is only talking about when the water is shallow. If you're going with your boat in an area which is less than 30 inches deep, we'll call it 3 feet, then it's going to be a problem because it's the problem of tchum. You're traveling from one domain to another. However, if the water is above 10 tvachim in height, say 3 feet, so then it's permissible. There's no tchum issue, right? Because ein tchum and lamala me'asara tvachim, no problem, no issue over here.
So what's the Tchum issue here?
Is that you're going from one domain to another domain? It's an eriv shiloh. It's tchum shiloh.
So
Ein tchum and lamala me'asara.
okay. So what's happening here? You're the Yutzvachim. In other words, if you're within the ground, let's say it's a very marshy, I guess maybe it says go to like a marshy place or whatever.
Yes.
And so the bottom of the boat is near the bottom. So the boat is a different area than I'm just trying to understand.
So it seems like the whole water, if it's less than 3 feet,
Right.
is one domain and then you're fine. But if it's more, then you're going from one domain to another, which is a problem. Now, why shouldn't we think too hard about this? Because we have numerous problems with this, even if we don't understand it properly.
Okay.
What's the obvious issue? What did the Gemara say over here? The Gemara differentiated Between what? No, before that. 3 days. What on earth does this have to do with 3 days? Why is there a difference? So I think Shia was just hinting that he's interested in writing a whole sefer explaining the shechita of the Rabbeinu Hananel over here as to why there would be a difference of 3 days or not.
Somebody beat him to it.
Within 10 to
Just a countries.
a conscious, yeah, probably. I'm sure someone wrote something about it because this is difficult already to understand. You know who asked this question? The Rif asked this question.
Okay, that's it.
Yeah, that's why it's such a good question. I don't ask questions like that. Too good of a question. The Rif is going to have major issues with this. He's going to shred this to pieces over here. The Rif over here comes in big. He quotes the whole thing, the Tanu Rabbanan, blah, 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 the whole Gemara, yeah. Yesh Mishaimer. He says that this is what? Sfina Goyshesh's business, the 10 Tvachim, that's the Rabbeinu Hananel, basically. Yeah? He goes through it, he has several questions, and including what's the difference with the 3 days in that. Goes into some Tchumim Minyanim. And this is going to be the reason, and by the way, the Mishnah Berurah over here, he's actually going to quote numerous different reasons. Right? He's going to quote a lot of different reasons over here from Rishonim. So this, by the way, is in the Gemara, and this has a lot of Rishonim commenting on it. So this made it. No, they were bothered by this. Keep in mind, 1,000 years ago, 800 years ago, how did people travel?
Right. So it's horse and buggy. I mean,
Horse and boat.
By basing.
They traveled by boat.
Right, to get around.
Yeah, that's what they did. Right.
That's how they came here from Europe.
Yeah,
that's a longer 100 years ago, right?
Boating is, I've been on a lot of boats in my life. It's fun. And I mean, people get seasick, but it's fun for someone like me who doesn't do it often. And with the breeze, it's enjoyable. It's nice. It gets you to think better. We brought our kids on the boat a few times. They had a good time. Yeah. And the jet skiing is also all these water sports. They're all fun. The Rif says, and this is a bite-sized idea you could bring home with you and share with your families over Shabbos. What's the difference of within 3 days and not? Logical. And this ties into what we were just learning about for the last couple of months, meaning except for before Purim and Pesach, when we went to those halachas. Mishum bitul mitzvahs oineg Shabbos. It all comes back to Oneg Shabbos. If you go on a boat, if you go on a ship, you're not going to be able to honor and enjoying the pleasures of Shabbos with eating as much. I remember once I was on a cruise and you share a table in the dining room with someone else, kosher meals, whatever, and the person was so sick the whole time. So you're paying good money to get sick. Someone else told me they went to Hawaii, which is a shaila going there, and then they got sick the whole time. Paying money to get sick.
What's the shaila going on Shabbos, right?
Yeah. So the problem over here is it's a bittul of mitzvahs oinik Shabbos. You're going to go on the ship. The kol shlosha yamim havilei shinui vest. Within 3 days of Shabbos, if you're going to go on your $1 billion yacht, you're going to get seasick. Now, it could very well be you're so used to getting on your yacht, it's not a problem. But people like myself who don't own a $1 billion yacht, so therefore I'm going to get maybe seasick. Now, I know I don't get sick when I go on ships, because I've been on a lot already. But some people, if they know, it's going to be a bittul of Oneg Shabbos. It could also depend on the waves and everything, and the weather and different factors. But it's going to be a bittul of Oneg Shabbos. That's going to be a change of the cycle. Because of the moving of the ship. In other words, seasick. That's what the Rif is saying. You're going to get seasick. Just want to add something. Shinui ves techila lechol ma'ayin. And we already learned about this. That when you change your cycle and what you're used to, that's the beginning of sicknesses. That's what leads to sicknesses. When you already have a tempo that you're in, a cycle, that's good. We saw that already. That was the idea of already maybe Tomel, why you have some of the food before Shabbos, it gets you acclimated to the Shabbos food, and then you won't get sick on Shabbos. We saw also the truth from Harvard is you're going to have challah make you sick because you're having it. One other point, practical, not necessarily halachik. If you're ever on a large ship, I mean, some of these are amazing. how big they are. I mean, the Titanic is like a midget compared to these things. Literally, I'm not making it up. You could Google how many times bigger the cruise ships are than the Titanic. They are huge.
No.
It's incredible. Not just the size of it, but what they put on them is incredible. If you're ever on one of these big ships and you get sick, the best place to go is lower down. You'll think, oh, I'll go to the top, I'll get fresh air. When you have a ship, if it's going to be swaying, the higher you are on the ship, the more you're going to get swayed. So just keep that in mind for practical advice. You're not able to do Oneg Shabbos. You're not going to be able to enjoy the pleasures of Shabbos when you're on the ship. After 3 days, you're already going to get acclimated to the ship. You're going to be able to eat properly and enjoy the pleasures of Shabbos properly, be ma'anek Shabbos properly. So how does mitzvah fit into the picture? For mitzvah, you're allowed to go even within 3 days. What do you mean? It's a bittul of Oneg Shabbos. If you're going to go within 3 days, where's your Oneg Shabbos going to be? Says the Rif, you're right. Forget about Oneg Shabbos. You know why? You're exempt. If you're literally going to do a davar mitzvah, you are in the higher ups of politics. You have a higher position.
In the hierarchy.
You're in the hierarchy. You are going now to do pidyon shavuyim. You're literally going across seas to redeem captives. Yeah, we have right now. Shavuyim. You're exempt from Oneg Shabbos. Why? The Amar Mar says in the Gemara in Sukkah Chafeh. I don't know why he quotes Sukkah. He could have quoted Brachos. It came up 2 places before in Brachos, but maybe because the main Sukkah is in Sukkah, that's what it gets focused on with the Rishonim. Ha oisek b'mitzvah pater min ha-mitzvah. Someone who's going to do a mitzvah is exempt from performing mitzvahs. Right? So therefore, this explanation of the Rif is basically the explanation. And this is basically the agenda of what the Chafetz Chaim will discuss when we actually go through word for word this introduction that the Chafetz Chaim gives. And the Chafetz Chaim will quote other opinions as well, in addition to what we just saw on the daf. Opinions off of the daf and other Rishonim as to trying to explain the Gemara of why it's going to be a problem. We're going to see those, see if they get it, actually make a difference in halacha or not. But this Rif, this is the main reason. So now you have something to chew on, you have something to think about, something to come home with, which is this difference over here. Any questions, comments on what we just did? All right. So basically what's on the itinerary next is we're going to go through that introduction to the Mishnah Berurah. We're going to go through some of the highlights of the Torah and everything, and then we're going to keep moving over here. That's what we're going to do. All right. Everyone should have a wonderful Shabbos.
Excellent Shabbos.
Yeah.
Shabbos.
Thanks.
Yep.
So I know he was talking about the idea of Tosfos Shabbos.